Welcome back to the Future Self podcast. Do you have a moment when you were doing 75 hard or when you were starting to build your personal public brand where you thought, shit, this is actually something, I can be something influential in this space, I can impact lives? Was there a moment with that, or was it someone telling you, or like what was the experience of that?
Yeah, I think the actual starting of the account was half accountability. Half, I think, I was living at the time with Jake, who's a Leicester boy online, and he'd already accumulated a pretty big following at that point, around 250,000 followers. And I think seeing, particularly when I was living in Bali, sort of the access to people and the network that granted him, right or wrong, but we're living in Bali, hanging out with, we ended up with like Jay Alvarez and like Koa Smith, some of these like world-class surfers and like influencers and people like that, and they gave us the time of day because of Jake's following. And I think that really like opened my eyes to be like, oh wow, okay, there's like some value here and there's like a real social currency behind it. So I think in some realms, yes, it started out because I like saw that opportunity, but it mainly was just accountability. I was like, all right, well, if I have to post every day, included in all the list of things that you do for 75 hard, then that's a great way to hold myself accountable. So it was also like a fresh account, a new start, just me sort of checking in daily and being like, here's what I did today, I showed up. So first for myself, but obviously I put it on public. So I think there was division, and I was putting hashtags on the post. It wasn't like it was some sort of accident.
Yeah.
I also think then it was incredibly quick from not necessarily the growth. Like it took me about 45 days to really start taking off, and we can get into that. But I think it was incredibly quick how quickly the message resonated with people. Like even within friends that I hadn't talked to in a while, things like that. Like I got all these, messages like, oh, I'm day X of 75 hard, or I did it last year, it was really good. Or 3 other people jumped on and joined me with it and actually created accounts as well. I think they fell off, but just the idea of like me putting myself out there and being like, this is what I'm doing 75 days of like self-improvement, physical and mental, and this is what I'm going to stand by for the next 75 days. I think the courage, not that I like saw it as like this big movement at the time, but I think just the courage to put yourself out there. You never know how people are going to like react to that. And generally, I think if you put yourself out in a vulnerable state, people are going to react pretty positively. I think they appreciate the vulnerability.
Yeah, so in the sense of blowing up on social media and gaining a very intense volume of following, what's the focus of positivity versus negativity that you've experienced with what you do?
I think social media is a pretty interesting beast where the way the algorithm rewards content is a lot around that comment and engagement. And the algorithm doesn't comb through and go, oh, this was a negative comment, therefore like let's reduce the reach of this post. Like you actually find that the posts that do the best out there, and you see it all the time, are incredibly polarizing, often quite controversial. Look at like Andrew Tate, look at Jordan Peterson, like all of these examples of people that have gone out there and said a very definitive statement that puts them on one side of the camp. And with that, you obviously get all the people that agree with that, who would react positively, but you also get the wave of people that would react negatively. And then you get the positive people commenting to the negative people, and you suddenly have this debate going on. And a debate going on in the comment section is like fuel to the fire in terms of like algorithm and growth, all those things. Specifically with my content, it's been overwhelmingly positive. And I think that comes back to one, trying to deliver as much value for the audience as possible. I think even knowing how the algorithm works, it's like, okay, yes, you can say something that's sort of polarizing or may turn a few heads, but you need to back it up and you need to make it actionable and have some benefit for people. And I think that's the longevity piece. I think people can come out and make all these brash statements, but they're not going to be around for long, because when you put those statements to the fire, they're just going to melt over time. Like if they're not evidence backed, if people aren't seeing a positive change in their life from following advice, they're not going to come back and repeatedly do that.
What are some of the stresses and struggles in your life that you manage just on a day-to-day, whether they're big or small? You share what you want to share.
I think just the quantity of work and how busy we are. I think it's very easy because of the way social media works. It's a continuous highlight reel, and I think people will just look into that and go, oh, like the comment I get all the time is like, trust fund kid. It doesn't really, like, honestly, at this point, I'm like, I don't really care. But I think people forget that it's like, websites don't come out of nowhere. Email marketing doesn't go out of nowhere. Like, this content doesn't just like form itself. Like, the stories and the content, like, I post twice a day, reels. It's like, if you go and try and make a reel, see how long it takes you. And like, particularly if you're creating like viral reels that have been curated with the right audio, the right hooks, the right messaging, and then take a step back and be like, okay, on top of the content, which is like the marketing plug on to your business, all of the back end. So like all the finance, all of the admin behind that, ensuring that like cash flow is coming in. We've now got like pretty much full-time content team. We've got a sales team, got a full-time partnership manager, balancing those different components, and then also looking at like, okay, what does the next 6 months look like? Like, how are we going to actually grow this? Like, we're just getting started here. And I think like juggling all of that, people probably discount and go, oh, you just run around and like with your top off and people film you and then you chuck it on Instagram. That's sick. And it's like, it is. The lifestyle is epic, don't get me wrong. And the lifestyle of like being able to earn from anywhere in the world and earn from my phone is like incredible and such a unique opportunity. But there's a lot of work that goes behind it. So I think just balancing that, where people probably don't see all of the work, because that's my job, is to show you that it looks like this is not a lot of work. And so I guess I'm doing my job right. If you're watching, and you feel like this is just like an overnight success, or you feel like these videos are just like effortless to make and they just pop up, then I'm doing my job right.